the Windrush organisation. Just a few house rules before we get going. Just to say, first of all, immediately that this meeting will be recorded and as part of our ongoing engagement meetings, and the recorded meeting will be made public and available on our website, the windrushnationalorganisation.com. I just want to say a hearty hello and welcome again to our meeting this evening. These are meetings that we have been running for the benefit of giving visibility for those affected by the Windrush to engage with relevant stakeholders such as the Home Office and other bodies that are seeking to address the issues that have come out of the Windrush scandal. We do ask that if you can please stay on mute, that would be very helpful as we go through this meeting. And then if you do need to come on board, we will indicate when that is going to be the time for that during the question and answer session. Just to say, as always, we always do like to start our meetings with a word of prayer. So those of you who wish to join us at this time, shall we just pray at this time? Father, we just come before you in the name of your Son, Jesus. We just thank you for your goodness and mercy towards us. We just again acknowledge your presence. We ask for your wisdom, direction, and guidance in all things. We look at our source of strength and help and continue to be our inspiration as we give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thank you very much. And again, I just want to welcome everyone. It's been, I think our last meeting was probably in November, if not December, but it's been a while. So I'm happy that you are with us this evening as we continue our ongoing engagement with regards to the areas of concern around the Windrush status and compensation scheme. We do have with us members of the Home Office this evening. We do have an agenda, and shortly I will be handing over to our chair, Bishop Desmond Jadu, who's going to be giving a general update with regards to some more specific things concerning the Windrush National Organisation. Then I'll be just giving you a brief update on our strategy going forward. And we'll be hearing from the Home Office some presentations. We do have Gabriella Monk with us, and they'll be sharing with us, obviously, some of the latest information around compensation and some more specific updates as well. And I know there are other members of the team who are here. They'll be introduced afterwards as well. After the presentation from the Home Office, there will be an opportunity for a question and answer session. And obviously, we are encouraging people, please, to use the hand raised button to indicate during that time, but we'll give a reminder for that as well. And please, if we can keep our questions probably short and succinct so that we can get more information from those who can give the answers. And then we'll be having a summary and close. So delighted that you can join us, and I have pleasure in handing over at this time to our Chair of the Windrush National Organisation, Bishop Desmond Jadu.
Thank you, Reverend Clive, and good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us this evening. It's our first meeting of 2022. And you may wonder, well, we've had, I think our last meeting was November, and we've had an 8-week break, but we've been busy dealing with various items. And we've been conducting a review of our strategy document, for which Reverend Clive will update us on very shortly. But good evening, welcome to Gabriella Monk from the Home Office. She's joining us. We've got Nigel Hills as well. And we've also got, name's gone out of my head now.
Angela.
Remind us, Angela, that's it. Couldn't remember. Angela Wilson also from the Home Office. So good evening and welcome to you, and welcome to you all as well. And thank you for joining us. As Reverend Clive said, we're just going to give a brief update on where we are as an organisation in terms of some of the issues that we've picked up from past meetings. Now we will be continuing with our engagement meetings on the third Thursday of every month. And some of the issues that we picked up upon has been on the work we've been doing engaging locally and nationally, is there's an issue with children who were in the care system. And we're in the process of addressing this with the Home Office. I know that the Home Office have made progress in terms of addressing a disparity in terms of when children are in care, which this did impact upon the Windrush generation. And the fact that there was a failure by local children's services and social services, as they were known at the time, to actually naturalise people as well. And we'll be submitting something to the Home Office next week on that as well, in terms of our views on the compensation scheme to ensure that that can be addressed as well. The other thing we're working on as well is with justice, as you know, where the justice report came out, and we've been invited to participate as an organisation in terms of some of the implementation work on that as well, and there'll be more update. In terms of the Wendy Williams review, we have facilitated contact with some of the case studies that came through our organisation in the first place for updates as well. So I think it was case study 1, and is it case study 3, Clive? I think it was, that we facilitated recontact between them and Wendy Williams as well. And we understand roughly around about the end of March, potentially, for her updated report on that. And as an organisation, we have given further evidence to it as well. And I think Reverend Clive will be talking about, we're assessing as well as an organisation some of our priorities in terms of where we are with that in what we've submitted to Wendy Williams to date. We're also been looking at the compensation scheme from the perspective of when we as an organisation assist people. And we found an alternative way of ensuring that we capture as much information as we can. So over the next 6 to 8 weeks, we'll be formulating our own compensation workshop of how we can extract information from people who are going through a traumatic time in terms of giving that information as well. In addition to that, we've been quite successful at providing some of the people who approach us directly that all-important support, that moral support. We've found out we've had to get some people independent counselling and what we call cultural counselling as well. And myself as a bishop, and our Reverend Clive's been caught up with this. I know Glenda Caesar as well has been caught up. We've had to end, and others as well. I'm only talking about who I know, who I can quote, who can quote as examples. What we've been doing is we've been, making our ears available to people and talking them through, because one of the things we found is that when people relive the experience, like for example, a chap, he came here from Jamaica in 1968. His mother got killed, knocked down by a car in London on a Pelican Crossing in 1970. So in completing his compensation and going through all his Windrush work, he's relived the trauma of losing his mother as well, which is obviously that's associative trauma. So we've had to support him. That's just one example. Now, Zaza Johnson, El Sheikh, she's completed the issue roundabout what I call truth and reconciliation, and she's been commissioned by the Home Office to devise the way forward with that. We've made it clear as an organisation we've already got a strategy in place to take that on. Now, we've queried what is her role here, and we understand it's been made clear to us that she will be devising what needs to be done, and then that would be put out to tender by organisations such as ours, for example, should we wish to go forward for that as well. One of the things we'll be doing as well over the coming months, particularly here in the West Midlands and probably joined by the East Midlands as well in coming up to the Commonwealth Games, is extracting Windrush stories, and also as looking at the emergence of the Black Church as an enterprise as well, and looking at local local and unsung heroes of the Windrush generation as a part of a submission to information for the Commonwealth Games as well. So that's something that we'll be doing here. The focus is West Midlands, East Midlands, but it could be anywhere in the country because ultimately the Commonwealth Games are here as well. And also use that as driving force to develop greater awareness to try and reach more people. And finally, for me, in terms of this, our national conference, we did plan one for last year, but because of COVID, I'm pleased to say our national conference will be on Saturday, the 21st of May, 2022, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. And that will be at Birmingham City University, Birmingham City Centre. That has now been confirmed by the university last night. So we'll be having that there, and we'll also be having an evening social gathering as well. So watch this space for more information on that. Just checking. And finally, I just need to make it crystal clear. We are also with regard to the community fund, we've had several concerns raised regarding the community fund, the delay of the community fund. We did chase that with the Home Office, rest assured. I did speak to Bishop Derek Webley as well regarding that direct personally. In addition to that, some concerns have been raised regarding the geographical allocation of funds, and we will be writing to the Home Office about that and asking for a much fuller explanation. I need to make it clear that the Home Office have told us that that community fund was managed and their lists of awardees was given to them by Voices for Change, who processed the applications as well. But we will be we've been asked to address it, and we are in the process of starting to address the, request information regarding the concerns which have been raised. So that's it for me. That's where we are at the moment. Unless there's any questions, I'm going to hand back to Reverend Clive to update you where we are with our strategy. And then after that, I think Gabriella will lead on the Home Office presentation, and then we'll open it up for Q&As. Thank you, Clive.
Thank you, Mr. Desmond. So as part of a little bit of an echo there, I think. Great, thanks. So as part of Windrush National Organisation, as I'm sure you may be aware, or those of you may be aware, we have been operating along the lines of a strategy document that was done by the organisation as part of our initial launch in October 2020. This document was really very much well considered and thought through and researched. A lot of work was done by Nigel Guy and Charlie Williams, who are on the call here. This is the actual document. Some of you may have seen this document already or had a copy of it. Now, this particular strategy document spanned, when it was originally created, from 2020 to 2023. And since the launch of our strategy document, we have been increasingly aware, I guess like with any plans, you have to make changes and refresh and address the needs for the direction that you're going in. So we are currently undertaking an exercise as part of Windrush National Organisation to refresh the strategy document. Just to remind you that this strategy document is a communication and engagement roadmap so that it enhances and improves and delivers on the Windrush status and compensation scheme. That's why the document was created, and it helped us to keep on track to ensure that the basic requirement of ensuring justice with regards to status and compensation was delivered. And there was this is a comprehensive strategy that involves community and working with partners to deliver this. Just to mention that the actual strategy document covered a number of areas of strategy, ranging from marketing and PR, engagement, compensation, crisis, bereavement strategy, and as Bishop Desmond mentioned, responding specifically to the Windrush Lessons Learned Review report. Now, in the strategy document, we had a number of aims and objectives, and the objectives were based on short, medium, and long-term duration. The document had around 34 time-bound objectives. 15 of those have been completed. Some of those objectives would be internal, such as our marketing, setting up a website, our ongoing lobbying. So that's 44% of our strategy has been completed. you can appreciate that some of the objectives are long-term. When we first created this document, we were working on the basis of 2020 to 2023. I'm really pleased to report that our document, in essence, is relevant and has been consistent in helping us address the issues, but we do recognize we do have to refresh it, notwithstanding that even now the compensation end date is no longer has a stop, as it were, publicly. So what we are doing is that we are looking through a number of areas where we believe we need to refresh, redesign, update our strategy so it meets with the current needs and the current climate with regards to where we are in terms of a status and compensation. We're already aware, I'm sure even that there have been further reports come out since we've created our document. Last November, there was the Home Office Affairs Select Committee report out, and there were a number of things in there which ourselves we are seeking to address. Now, just to let you know that one of the particular areas that we're going to be doing a lot of work in terms of updating is going to be around the compensation. Bishop Desmond outlined some of the more specific things that we're already aware of, but we are acutely aware as part of as Windrush National Organisation, there are specific areas where there are challenges around getting the compensation up to the level that we would like to see. I would just like to say as well that if anyone on the call here or people who you may know think that there are areas that you are experiencing which you believe should be part of our strategy, we would welcome you to sort of feed into that as well. All of the chapters and affiliates within the national organisation are currently looking at their local chapters and areas of work and are feeding back in the latest information so that we can update our strategy. And we see these engagement events as giving us information as well that can help with that strategy document as well. And it is about ultimately a roadmap to help and guide us ensure that there is justice for the Windrush generation with regards to their status and their compensation. So that's the update. Just to let you know that we intend to launch the new strategy at our conference in May on the 21st, as was announced earlier. So that's the update I'd like to leave there. And we can, if there's any questions about the strategy, we can pick those up later on in our Q&A section. So thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to hand back over to Bishop Desmond, who can lead us into with the Home Office presentations.
Thank you very much, Reverend Clive, for that. So I think, Gabby, you're leading off, are you? Right, so we've got the team from the Home Office this evening who's going to do their presentation for us, bring us up to date. I have got someone, just to let you know, Gabby, to forewarn you, in the chat that's talking about the changes to all the issues surrounding the 2-year rule as well. And I've told them that they can ask that question after the presentation. And Clive, just let you know, JV Greaves will have the first question. She's put it in the chat, but it's best if they just put that question directly themselves. So thank you, and over to you. Do you need sharing on the screen, Gabby, at all?
No, just going to give verbal updates tonight, if that's okay for everybody. Thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Oh, thanks very much, Bishop Desmond. So what I'll do is, good to see you all tonight. I'll go through an update on the Windrush compensation scheme and on status, and then I'll hand over to Angela. But before I do, let me just introduce Nigel to you. So Nigel has joined the Windrush compensation scheme as the head of scheme. He's taking over from me in terms of running the scheme on a day-to-day basis. Some of you will already know Nigel because he's got a long background in running the Windrush status scheme, so I'll let him introduce himself shortly. But just to say, Nigel's coming on board to take over the role I was doing temporarily, but I'm still staying with the team. I'm moving into a director's role, but the team, the Windrush Compensation Scheme, will stay with me. So I will continue to be here. We will have that continuity. Nigel is joining, as I say, on a day-to-day basis, but he does already have experience and some understanding around the Windrush scheme. So Nigel, can I just ask you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good. So good evening, everybody. I was keen to come along just to put a face to a name. And as Gabby just said, I have been leading the Windrush status scheme, well, since the beginning, since April 2018, alongside the citizenship teams in Liverpool. I've worked with Gabby before, so I'm really delighted to be able to come and just help with the work you guys are doing to bring together both the compensation scheme, but also I'm quite keen to join the dots between what we can do from the decision making into the compensation element of the decisions that we're making to support individuals who go through the whole system. As I said, two and a half years since the beginning, I am really committed to the lessons that we've learned from the experiences we've been through with Wendy Williams, from the work that we've done to try and address some of the challenges that we've faced. I feel, certainly from the teams that I've been leading, that, you know, many of the caseworkers have actually got it, that there's still work to do. We're not there yet. I'm keen to listen to what you've got to say, to feed into the thinking about what we need to do to make the compensation scheme as effective as it can be. But it's early days. It's like week 2 and 1 day for me. So I'm still reading into the compensation scheme. And I'm at the moment, I think I said to Gabby, I'm in kind of sponge mode. So I'm in the process of just absorbing a lot of the issues we've been wrestling with, working with the team to make sure that we can, as I say, consolidate and build on what we've been doing with you, what your concerns are. And other than that, I've got nothing really much to say. Other than that, today I'll hand back to Gabby, but I say I look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Nigel. So let me just give a quick update on the compensation scheme and then on the status scheme. And then, as I say, I'll hand over to Angela and we'll happily take questions. And yes, definitely we'll pick up on the ILR lapsing issue. I might bring Nigel back in at that point. So just to say, in terms of the compensation scheme, we have seen a steady increase in the amount of money that's being paid out, the number of cases that are being processed. So by the end of December, we had paid out £35.3 million, which was an increase of over £3 million from the end of October. And we also have a significant amount, another 6 million currently under offer. So the latest data was published at the end of January. 35.3 million over 940 claims. 6 million have been offered and waiting acceptance or pending review. And overall, 41.5 million paid or offered. You'll all know that the scheme was overhauled last December 2020. And more offers have been made at greater amounts throughout the year. And we're seeing that continue. When the latest figures are published for January, that will see a further increase as well. We're also aware that's what is also really important to people is getting cases cleared as quickly as possible. And we are on target to have cleared over 90% of the cases that were made before 2021 by the end of March. And we hope that once we've done that, we will start to see cases move through more quickly. Obviously, cases are still going to take a number of months to process because there was an information gathering process. We know that that can be difficult for individuals. As you indicated at the outset, Bishop Desmond, sometimes people having to look at the information they're gathering can be difficult and traumatic. We know that it can take people some time to gather that, and we appreciate that, but we will continue to make sure we're processing things as quickly as we can at our end. I think I explained at the last meeting that we have been bringing extra caseworkers into the teams. We've both been externally recruiting and moving other Home Office staff over. So we now have 3 teams in Liverpool who have also joined the teams in Leeds and Sheffield, and they are pretty much up to speed now. So that is helping us increase the numbers and increase processing of cases. So the vulnerable persons team are there as well to provide support to people. They've spoken to and provided support to just short of 2,000 people, and they consistently get good feedback in terms of their service to people. So we're really pleased with that work. We've had people working in the office all the way through on the helpline because it was easier for them both to access documents and to speak to people if they've been in the office. Caseworkers have largely been working from home, but we will start to see people going back into offices from the middle of March, which I think will help with sharing of information and with people's support and training. In terms of the Windrush scheme for documentation, where Nigel has been working up until now, over 14,500 people have now been issued with documentation confirming their status. And we've run surgeries at over 80 places, although that has been restricted because of COVID. However, we have run some surgeries on a digital platform as well, and we are hopeful that as the COVID restrictions start to lift, subject to people staying safe and secure, we will start to be able to do some more of that work as well. So I will hand over to Angela to give an update on the support work, the promotion work and the community work. So Angela, let me ask you to do that, and then of course we'll take questions from people.
Thank you, Gabby. Good afternoon, Bishop Desmond, and good afternoon, WNO members. I'm Angela Wilson. I work with Kate Ridley-Moy in the Windrush Lessons Learned programme. She's the SRO, and my role is the head of the Windrush External Engagement team. But I'm actually going to provide the update as Kate would have provided, covering 3 issues, most of which Bishop Desmond responded to when he was giving his update. The first being the community fund. Yes, we did intend to have the decisions out in regards to the community fund by the end of August, but on the 27th, end of August last year, but on the 27th of January this year, the organisations who were successful in receiving funding under the Windrush Community Fund was announced. So 13 organisations have been allocated funding between £2,500 to £25,000. Details of the organisations can be found on gov.uk. If you just search under Windrush Community Fund, the phase 2 organisations who were successful will come up there. I take on board that Bishop Desmond said there's concerns about the geographical spread. The geographical spread covers areas in the North East, South London, West Midlands, Bristol, Reading, Edinburgh, Manchester, Luton. You would consider it to be a good geographical spread, but others may have other views on that. The community fund was basically down to the shortlisting of the applications. There was 108 applications received. The shortlist, the sift was actually done by Voice for Change, sent through to the Windrush working. But there was just some, it took a little while for them to agree who out of the 108 should be given funding and who shouldn't. So the shortlisting process took way longer than we wanted it to take, but it was eventually announced on the 27th of January with the geographical spread we've mentioned there. The phase 1 applications organisations are still working through their activities. Some have completed them, some continue to be monitored and delivered through with Voice for Change as the grant administrators monitoring the activities they're delivering. We've actually got a welcome session for the new organisations being arranged in March, and we will invite the phase 1 applications to come in and share lessons learned and good things that they've actually taken away from their experiences managing the Home Office Community Fund. So basically the message in regards to the Community Fund is to say that work is now underway. The funds are where they need to be, and the organisation, 13 organisations were successful, have now been allocated their money to begin their work. A positive outcome is there's been a huge amount of interest in the Community Fund from our ministers, holders, etc. We are actually we've arranged for the ministers to visit 33 organisations, organisations, which was already happened. He's actually interested in visiting a few more, meeting not only the community groups, but also people that they've actually been working with and liaising with. So we've got another further couple of ministerial visits we're arranging. He's shown an interest in going to visit a project in Wales, and then there's another project in Birmingham that we're arranging for him to visit. He's already been to a community project in London, and he's also visited Derby and Nottingham to visit a couple of projects there. So the Community Fund is underway and it is generating a lot of attention. We're actually speaking to our grants administrators to see our grants funding team to look into the scope of seeing if we can redo the Community Fund, but at the moment there's no commitment that it will do. It was a 2-phased project, both of which are now underway. At the moment, no, there isn't any scope, but this is something that we're actually discussing with our grants team to see if there is any scope at all for us to extend that or to even launch a new scheme, grants-based scheme going forward. That's it on the Community Fund, but as Gabby said, I will take questions after. The other up is in regards to Wendy Williams's visit. Yes, we're in the final phase of Wendy Williams's revisit to the department. She's completed her field work. She's at the moment drafting her response. That's going to be sent to us in draft by the end of this month. We will then fact check it and make comments and actually bring people in to comment on the accuracy of the information in the report, and then fed back to Wendy, and the date for her to issue the final report is the end of March, as Bishop Desmond has actually said. So that's the update on Wendy Williams's return. I'm grateful to hear that you have had the opportunity to feed into that and have actually taken that opportunity. And we actually have no insights. We've given no and heads up at all about what the report will say, but we will receive it in draft at the end of the month. The last update that I would give is as regards again to recommendation 3, which is the reconciliation events. Again, Bishop Desmond rightly said that belief in mediation arbitration, which BEMA has again been commissioned to take forward the design, suggestions on the design for the reconciliation events. They have not been procured or commissioned to actually do the design themselves, but what they have been commissioned to do is to facilitate the consultation on how the design should be taken. So I hope that you'll all be willing to take part and feed your thoughts into that consultation being managed by Zaza. It isn't to actually do the recommendation, but to actually feed into how do you think it should be hosted? What type of events should it be? How many should we run? Who should facilitate it? When will be the best time to hold it? These. Any kind of thoughts you have, please do feed into that consultation. It's only a consultation stage at this moment. What will happen to the feedback that we receive is that it will be collated by BEMA, by Zaza, sent to us in the Home Office, and we will submit it to ministers to get a final decision, a yay or nay, to take forward the proposals as given by yourselves. please do feed into it. It's starting with a short survey. She's actually done a survey to canvass your initial views, and then she will follow it up with some consultation sessions to get your further thoughts on what you've actually put in the survey. So I can't stress enough that it is down to you, the community, to help us design the events. She hasn't been commissioned to design it herself. She's been commissioned to consult on what the design should be. And we do ask for it to go quite wide, not only with yourselves as members, anyone else that you want to share this with, who you feel to feed into that. There isn't only, down to a selected number of people. It's as wide as you want to take it. So that is the role of Zaza. It isn't really for her to actually design it herself, but her to consult on the design and whatever your thoughts are. It's not going to be one size fit all. You may actually say that there should be a combination of different ways to hear people's views and comments. Do feed that in. It literally is you to feed into that. Those are the issues I wanted to update on. So I will hand it back to Bishop Desmond to open the Q&A. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that. First of all, can we just have confirmation, just having a quick look at the chat. Excuse me. Let's have a quick look at this. The Immigration Minister, can you just confirm, someone has asked, has he got a name?
Yes.
I've put in the chat, it's Foster, so please.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
I think just for future reference, it's important that we say who it is.
Yes.
So everyone's aware, and the links, just to confirm, the links will be put in the chat in terms of the latest fact sheet, January 2021, and also as well the successful people on the Windrush Community Fund. JV Greaves, a couple of people have put in here regarding the chat, regarding the issues of individuals that were born in the UK and are British but were locked out of the UK with their parents travelled abroad, and the issues surrounding the 2-year rule. I think Jay Greaves is on here. Do you want to ask your question directly, please?
Good evening to everyone. This is Jean. I'm very pleased to be able to ask my question because I have been sent that update by someone who knows that I follow this sort of stuff. I was trying to figure out how to put the PDF into the chat so everyone could read it, but I couldn't quite figure that out. However, my questions is that there is a document online called Returning Residents, which the Home Office put out as guidance to officers. And in it, it said that the 2-year rule of leaving the country and coming back for more than 2 years did not apply to Commonwealth citizens who had settled in the UK by the 1st of January 1973. They would have been exempt from this rule. And in the initial Windrush status documentation, the application and so on, it supported this document that the Home Office had said that there's this historic injustice which was used against returning residents and it should not have been applied before 1988. However, this newest guidance is saying that that was an error. And since that was an error, that they have corrected it and they have sent this now as the new guidance to the Windrush teams. My question is, if this is new guidance and people who supposedly were subjected to the historic injustice, but it was an error, and still have not had their claims assessed, is this going to impact upon these persons, especially in the category where they talk about the impact on life, because they were not able to come back simply because in correcting this error, you're saying that they didn't really have a right to live and work in the UK. Therefore, the impact on life for not being able to live and work here may even be nil. So that persons who have got compensation claims in would be severely affected, even though there is a statement in this update which appears to say that the vast majority will not be affected, even where individuals have previously spent more than 2 years living overseas. I don't know that this is totally clear. And as usual, people will mistrust the Home Office, that this is yet another instance of them finding ways and means by which they either reduce people's compensation or refuse to pay in the first place. I would like to know if somebody could address that. Thank you.
So let me come back on that question, and Nigel, I might bring you in if needed, but this is quite a technical and specialised point. It only applies for quite a short period of time, but we were asked on several times several months ago to examine our guidance on this, and we went away and did that. And what we discovered is that what had been put in guidance had been carried forward from previous documentation and was incorrect. And that the requirement for people to with ILR not to leave the country for more than 2 years applied across the board. So we have corrected the guidance and made that clearer. What we have said is that anyone who has had status or has been compensated on the basis of the incorrect guidance that was out there will, of course, continue to maintain their status, and we won't be looking to recover compensation. Anyone who has a current claim and has made that in good faith based on what was incorrect guidance, we will honour that claim and treat that claim in line with the guidance that was there at the time. But what we have to do is make sure that going forward, our guidance is correct and consistent. So any new claims for compensation or status will take account of the rules as we understand them. Now, I appreciate when we looked at this, we weren't expecting to find that we had made an error in guidance, and it's an error that has persisted in that guidance for quite some time. But as a government organisation, we have to make sure the guidance is correct there, but we don't want anyone who had previously claimed and where we've had claims on hold to be impacted by that. So we will deal with those claims as the guidance was at the time.
Can I finish? Sorry, can I
Yes.
make a little bit, ask a little expansion on what I'm saying? Now you're saying that any future claims, however, is there a cutoff date to say claims submitted before this guidance was issued, or claims submitted, say, within 6 months of this guidance being issued? Because there may be people who may be in the process of submitting their claims based on what they knew before, or they may have been granted their ILR status based on the fact that whatever was in the guidance before. Because say, for example, I know of claims submitted in April 2021, and after several telephone calls, persistence, being told, oh, your case has now been allocated to a caseworker. No indication as to whether on that caseworker's load, it's number 1 or number 100. So when it comes to the case, if it's number 100, do we have the assurance that the case, when it is being looked at, will be dealt with as the previous guidance, or it will be applied after a certain date, even though, you know, because you're now looking at it? I think people need to be sure of that, because there's so much.
So any claim that was made before the guidance changed will be dealt with on the basis of the guidance as it stood when the claim was made. Any claims that are made after the date the guidance changed will be dealt with following the new guidance. We do think this only impacts on a very small number of people, and I know Julia's put that in the sidebar. But we do have some cases that we have been waiting for clarification on, and we will deal with those as the guidance subsides. And I know Bev said in the sidebar that it's guidance. The important thing to focus on is that the law hasn't changed, and the law hasn't been changed. The guidance we put to explain the law was what was wrong. There hasn't been any change to the law itself.
Okay, thank you for that, Gabby. I think what the lady was trying to get across is that obviously with that misappliance then of the guidance, it's an issue which has damaged trust in terms of moving forward with regard to this. And clearly, I mean, she sent us in her concerns anyway directly as well, and we'll see to get those addressed. There's a couple of questions in the chat. The questions in the chat, because we've got a few hands up. We will be taking the chat off and sending them into the Home Office. But the main one as well is the last one, which was raised regarding children. Before we move on to Glenda Caesar. At our last meeting, someone hasn't come back to us from the Home Office. This is about children where their parents took them out of the country, but they inadvertently didn't return, and some are still stuck abroad despite being British. So I think, Nigel, afterwards, I'll write to you directly regarding that. And the person who's put the question in, can you send me in your email address, please? And then I can ensure that we correspond directly on that one as well. I have seen it. I just need to clarify it's the same person. All right. Nigel, can you send me your email address privately so that I've got that? And then we can go from there. Who's been waiting? Glenda Caesar. Thank you for your patience. Over to you.
Hi. My question is going out to Nigel, because he's now taken over as the head of the Windrush compensation. So you're going to have a lot of bother, I'll just let you know. Most of it is in relation to the payment of compensation and how it's being handled. I noted that Gabby had mentioned earlier that they are now, by March, I think, applications that were put in 20 will be assessed. But my main concern, I have 3 different issues. One of the issues is we are digital, which is not of any help to anybody, not to anyone that comes to me with any queries. They're not dealing with it properly. And a lot of applicants who have put in applications who are still waiting to be paid, some of them are on the tier 2 level. Some have been assessed by the adjudicator, and the adjudicator's put in the report and the application has been sent back. And the reply that they're getting back is, I'll tell you exactly what it says. It says something about it's with the policy holder. Now, I find that a bit strange that policy holder looking at review, no caseworker allocated at the moment. So I find that a bit strange as well. So I wonder if you could perhaps, let us know what's happening, because I don't understand why would an application for compensation be with a policy holder. And this is something that's a bit puzzling to me, because I've never heard that in any compensation claim before. There is such a delay in regards to, it's like the payments, you say that 35 million has gone out, but I'm getting people, I got a phone call today from a gentleman in Reading who's been waiting for nearly a year and a half for any response to anything. Caseworkers are not even getting back to people. I've made calls, because I represent quite a few people, and I've made calls to your team on the telephone. I'm like, can you get the caseworker to at least, with authority, let me just let you know that everyone I represent, authority letter has gone out to say, yes, we give her permission. But yet I never get any emails in reply. They contact the clients directly. Some of them, like I think someone had mentioned it earlier, they are so traumatized that they don't even want to deal with this anymore. They just feel, I can't handle this anymore. So this is why they pass it on to people like ourselves in Windrush National Organisation and other organisations, so we can deal with it for them and prevent them from going with this trauma. but the caseworkers are not getting back to us. So if you could explain to me, what is the delay? Are they not qualified to deal with this properly? And how are you going to make it any better? Because now, in the time that this thing, we've had 3 different people. Hats off to Thomas Gregg, because he was doing a very good job and he was replying to every email we've got with positive answers, but that seems to have slowed down. So how are you going to make it any different, Nigel?
Thank you. That was a baptism of fire, wasn't it? So
Yeah, it was. That's me.
yes, nice to deal with you. I mean, when you date back right to the very beginning of this scheme, so you know you are a name to conjure with, and a number of other names on this this chat I recognise as well from very early on, where we granted status. So it's good to put faces to names in many cases. So in order of the way you asked them, and some of them were slightly rhetorical, I would say, with week 2.5. So forgive me, I am still reading into some of the compensation schemes. So first off, we are digital. So very happy to hear positive or negative feedback on We Are Digital. Clearly, the whole point of We Are Digital is to provide a front end support and interface. And I can see you shaking your head. And I appreciate that there are different views and different experiences, but we need to deal with what we can see. We need to get the feedback. So I don't know, Bishop Desmond Jadu, maybe if we could commission that and people could feed in any particular thoughts they've got, positive or negative. I'm happy to see those thoughts and to feed that into our conversations with We Are Digital to make sure they're delivering what we want them to deliver, what we collectively want them to deliver, which is supporting people to get into the system without somebody putting the sidebar, about legal costs, without extortionate legal costs or difficult legal costs. The point is it should be an accessible system. So that's the first thing that I'm really quite passionate about. Now, whether we're there or not is a whole different question, but I'm happy to hear, respond, and action that feedback. The tier 2 adjudicator question, frankly, I don't know the answer to that on this call. I suspect that some of the ILR cases that we've spoken about that may have gone through to tier 2 could have been held up behind that review that we've spoken about. I don't know, but I'll check into that and find out what it is that you described, and particularly this question explicitly of, if I wrote it down correctly, policyholder looking, was it at the review, did you say? Policyholder looking at, what were they looking at?
At the application, you're talking about indefinitely. I'm talking about a compensation claim where they're supposed to get a payment sent out to them. I want to know, why is a policyholder looking at none of these have anything to do with status, because half of these people who put in application have already had their status, have already been issued their citizenship, have already made the application for their passport. They're now making applications for the compensation. So why is a policy? Why would someone who's dealing with a policy be looking at an application for compensation? And I can send you all of the letters if you want me to, Nigel. That's not an issue. I can.
Yeah, I'm happy to look at the letters. I mean, can I just be clear?
You can perhaps explain to me, is this a template? Because what's a policyholder looking at a compensation claim for? I'm a bit lost.
Yeah, as I say, I don't know the answer to that. I'll look at it. But just to be clear, what I was saying, that where we've just spoken about the commitment we've made, that all those individuals with an existing compensation claim will not be disadvantaged where they've got a claim in the system by the change in the policy. And what I was just explaining to you, that whilst we have got to that point, there may have been some people with a compensation claim dependent on that ILR question that may have been in the system. But I'll take it away as a priority. I'll have a look at what's in that letter. I honestly don't know the answer, but we'll come back to you separately on that engagement with the tier 2 adjudicator, which is clearly an independent adjudicator its way outside the compensation scheme.
Can I just mention that half of these are close family members and they're getting those letters?
No, okay.
Not only primary claimants, close family members are getting those letters. So something's going wrong somewhere. I don't know where, but it's going wrong.
And the third question, I think, was a more generic question about, I don't know whether what can or will I do to make the interaction, engagement and absorption of information from you guys and the feedback more effective. So as I think I said, I am absolutely clear that what we've learned from the Windrush experience is that, and I'm not just saying this, that we need to put the individual at the heart of what we do. You've seen the face behind the case stuff. You've seen the information that we've done with our caseworkers. I believe we've been successful with that, certainly in the in the status area, and we're inculcating that. We're getting that rolled out into the new caseworkers as they enter and join the compensation scheme. It is sometimes really, really complicated, as Gabby has said, and sometimes people simply don't understand the complications of that system. So some of these things can take a little bit longer than we would like to unpick. Some of the conversations can be quite complex and complicated. But where I'm in quite a unique position in the Home Office, in that, you know, I will be leading both the Windrush compensation scheme. I will have a direct line, and the Windrush status scheme will still be accountable to me. And I will also be leading the Windrush policy team. And I think that gives me an ideal position to try and join the dots that you've just described. Now, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. As I say, it's only week 2.5. I like to think, I hope for the people that I've spoken to and worked with, that I have shown that certainly in terms of my delivery within the status area, that's been effective. But as I say, it is early days for me in the compensation team. So I've taken on board what you've said. I appreciate, by the sound of it, we need to do a bit better on some of that engagement. And Gabby's also impressed upon me. That's one of the things that I need to pick up as a priority. I think open-hearted was the phrase that she used to me in terms of the ethos and the approach that we need to use. And that's what I will be working day and night to make sure is embedded across the whole of the area that I'm now leading.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you,
I can't say
Nigel.
more than that. I mean, it is literally early days, and the proof of the pudding in this case will be in what I deliver.
Thank you, Nigel. It's coming up to 8 o'clock. We've got Q&A until 8:25. WNO members, please bear with me, because we've got access where we can ask questions. So I'm going to go to the people who are not WNO's members. So I'm going to go to Richard first, then Judy, then Mimi, then Neil, then June Elizabeth, and then Julia Davidson. Can I ask you please to keep your questions as succinct as you possibly can? If it's going on too much, I will be stopping the question, and also as well to the Home Office staff as well. Please, as succinct answers as you potentially can, please. That'd be greatly appreciated. And if there's detailed follow-ups that will be required, then please submit them to us so we can forward them on. Richard, I think it's good afternoon to you, isn't it?
Very much so. Thank you very much. And I just want to wish everybody a happy, belated as it is, a happy new year. I just have two questions, one for Mr. Hills and one for Ms. Wilson. The first one, Mr. Hills. In 1987, apparently the Home Office gave me a returning, or told the embassy in Port of Spain, the British High Commission in Port of Spain, to give me a returning resident visa. That was never communicated to me, sir. I made several trips thereafter to the High Commission. That was never communicated to me. Can you tell me, did that status, or that returning resident status that was given to me apparently in 1987, did that lapse? And secondly, this question goes to Ms. Wilson. Fact check the Wendy Williams report. Seriously? Seriously? That's all the questions I have.
So I'll take the first one. So I think this is really important, because it's this is the first meeting I've attended. I really need to underline, I cannot and will not and couldn't get involved in individual case specific conversations for no other reason than I'm not really briefed on the individual case. So what I will do, Mr. Black, is I'll take that away. I've made a note, and I'll dig in with the team about where we're up to and what that decision that was made on that status, how it relates to your claim for compensation, and just address specifically the question that you asked about your the provenance of your return resident status. But for everybody, you know, it would not be possible, nor would it be right to address individual case-specific questions on these calls. So I know that might be frustrating, but I think that's the only way we can approach that.
Thank you, Nigel. Mr. Black, in regards to your question about fact-checking, when I say fact-checking, it isn't to actually change or question any of Wendy Williams's views. That's entirely her own. It really is that she actually made over 500 requests for evidence from us in our office, and we submitted over 2,000, if not more, pieces of evidence. So when we say we're fact-checking the evidence we gave her as it been accurately reflected. Her views is not for us, and Wendy Williams will not entertain us changing her views. So I could clarify that fact-checking is just to fact-check the huge amount of wealth of evidence that we submitted, that it's been accurately reflected in the report, because that's what she would want us to do, to make sure that she's interpreted what we've given her correctly, but not to comment on views. She wouldn't entertain us doing so anyway.
Ms. Wilson, I would imagine that Ms. Williams would have a lot of stuff that she would like the Home Office to do. But it's just not going to get done. But thank you very much for your answer.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard, and hope that you're keeping well. Judy Richard.
Yeah, greetings. It's the first one of the meetings that I've managed to make of these, so apologies if this is a question that can't be dealt with here and needs to be referred on. But the community fund of £500,000 is a drop in the ocean when you consider that the National Lottery Community Fund is over £600 million. And there are lots of other funders out there for this type of work. So partly I wondered, has there been a review of phase one that will be up for public scrutiny so we can see what the benefits of it was?
Mm-hmm.
And how that was used to decide if any changes were needed for phase two, and where there's obviously always more people applying for funding than actually will get funding. Has Voice for Change as the organisation that helped with the process, or any of the other organisations around, actually done anything to help the unsuccessful applicants to be referred on to other funding bodies so that they can go to their local authority or a trust or whatever in order to get that work done? And also, I mean, I have to say, I'm a community development worker by training. I worked for Racial Equality Council for many, many years and still do community development work in my area. 12 months is nothing in community development times. You barely got your team together, got your act together, got your policies together, met people, and you're already at the end of the 12th month winding down. So is there anything being done to actually consider the long-term needs, especially when it is absolutely clear that there are still so many people that could be claiming compensation and should be claiming their status and are still not doing it because they're not being reached out to properly in community development terms that help them to understand it's safe, it's acceptable, it's the sort of thing that they can do and should be doing, and will get the support for it.
Thanks, Julie. Julie, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, thank you, Bishop Desmond. There is actually a lot of things that I agree with in that statement. I do agree that I think £500,000 is a drop in the ocean, and actually the demand definitely outweighed the supply. We had way more applications than we have money to support. So we are looking into whether there is any other means to actually launch a new scheme, extend this scheme. At the moment, as I say, there isn't any commitment to do so, but it is something we are actually taking forward to look into that in view of the demand. We're also looking at proposals, ways that we can actually work with Voice for Change and some of the unsuccessful applications. There was a number of near misses, which is, as I say, why we went way over the time with the shortlisting, because there were a number of good proposals there that just missed the cut because the pot of money was so limited. So we in the centre here are looking at the opportunities to work with some of the unsuccessful applicants. Again, we haven't actually got criteria to put before you, but that is something we are considering because we acknowledge, and the feedback from Voice to Change was that there's definitely some good applications that's thrown out with the bathwater that we don't really want to go to waste. So we are looking at that as a further means of ways to work with unsuccessful applications. So watch this space. And then lastly, in regards to the phase 1 applications, yes, some of them are still delivering what they set out to do. So it isn't by any means complete, but there is a monthly monitoring by Voice for Change to feed through how the applications are going, how the organizations are developing, what's left to do. And we're beginning to start our evaluation of the phase 1 applications. How successful have they been? What difference has it made? And we're gathering in that data as we speak. So correct, and that it will take a while to evaluate the success of the phase 1 projects, but we have begun that process because some of them are coming in saying they've delivered.
Thank you, Angela. I'm going to have to move on quickly. I think we've got, is it Tamika? And then it'll be followed by Neil.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to find out, is it just a random, a letter that's sent out to people to say that they're not qualified for the primary claim? Because it seems to be a pattern within my family where no one has actually been qualified for this primary claim. And we've all been unsuccessful regardless of our circumstances. We've all been granted our status-wise, which is a tick on the Home Office path. But when it comes to the compensation, we've all been demotivated and not being interested because we see the constant pattern and the random copy and paste letter that we all get that's stating exactly the same reason why we're not qualified, or it's been looked into. And I've got one of my aunties have actually made an application since 2019 and she still haven't heard or received any form of payment. So what guidance can we get to know how to make the claim if we're doing it incorrectly, or how can we seek help in putting the right claim in if we've submitted the wrong claim?
Yeah, I before I put that to the Home Office, just to let you know, Tamika, the points you raise are some points that we've been asking the Home Office about. We've asked the Home Office in terms of, if they look at a claim form and the information is either ambiguous or it doesn't make sense, respectfully, because we do appreciate that some people can't articulate it as well as they should, they take what's on the form. And I have asked that question, and it's something actually that we're in the process of dealing with. Hence, when I said in my update at the beginning, we've fathomed out how to do the compensation so that the information falls off the paper instead, and we'll be following that up as well. But I think it's Nigel or Gabby who should make a quick response to you on that one. But I'm responding from an organizational perspective because we do agree with you. We have highlighted that, and we've come across several cases of that nature where we're having to redo the compensation claims for people.
So
I hope that helps.
I'll just be really quick, but Nigel will probably want to add something. So Tamika, if your aunt's had a claim since 2019, if you want to send me an email, I'll have a look and update you on, because we don't have many cases that are that old. In terms of preliminary payments, we know we're not doing them as quickly as we hoped, and we know they're actually proving more difficult. They're certainly not just done at random or on a cut and paste basis, but it sometimes is proving quite difficult to establish whether there's an eligibility quickly. Nigel, did you just want to say something about the thoughts you've got about how you might be making some changes to that?
Yeah, so straight in the deep end. So one of the things I've been looking at, well, I've been walking through the process, is the preliminary claims. So just to reinforce what Gabby said, I mean, no, it isn't. And I've seen the actual process in action. No, it isn't just a pro forma. It is difficult in the 12 weeks period that the 6-week period that we've got from the point that eligibility is confirmed to get enough information to confirm that entitlement and make a payment, which I think is one of the things that individuals are struggling with. So one of the things we're looking at, and again, it's very early days, is to start that. So there are two elements to the compensation claim. So there's eligibility. So are you eligible at all? And that's easy if you've been through the task force for the compensation scheme. And then entitlement. So not everybody who is eligible within the Windrush scheme would necessarily have had an issue in their past that would entitle them to a payment under the scheme. And what I'm keen to do is to start right from the point of the decision making. Certainly as we do the eligibility checks in Sheffield, to rather than just wait until the point that we get to eligibility to start looking at the actual substance of the claim and making the early payment, to start really early on, so we can work with you and individuals about not just the eligibility, but also looking at the entitlement, to look at what the history is, to feed in to the substance, the detail, the supporting bits of the claim, so that we're not then just scrabbling in the last 6 weeks once we confirm eligibility, that we can look at that right from the beginning of the process. And that will make it, I think, more likely to be where we need to be, which is making as many substantive payments on the preliminary payment as we can do at the earliest point possible. That must be the goal that we have got. But to do that, we need to get, as Bishop Jeddah has said, we need to get the structure, the information, the information to support that payment in as clearly as we can and as early as we can.
Thank you, Nigel. I'm going to move on very quickly. Tony, I can see you don't need to wave any further. You'll just have to wait your turn. Just to remind everyone, there's 10 minutes left. Succinct questions, please. And Neil, I did say you could go now, but I'll honour that. But we know members, I will be going to members of the public who haven't been on these calls before first. They get priority. To you, Neil, and I'll have to ask you to be as quick as you can, please.
Hello, this question is for Gabby and Nigel. My question is, how does the Windrush scheme justify responding to status and compensation claims of Windrush victims exiled abroad who have been impacted in life by the impact that their immediate family members have had in the UK? And how does the Windrush scheme respond to state adversity against its own citizens, i.e. Windrush descendants? Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Gabby, Nigel?
So that's quite a difficult question to answer. There is nothing that should prevent people establishing their right to status or their right to compensation because they're abroad. Is that the point you were getting at, Neil? I'm sorry.
Yes.
So I'd have to say the scheme is open. There is nothing that would bar people from applying in those circumstances.
That is contradictory to what has happened. So needs further clarification.
So I think if you're talking about your personal circumstances, that's something we can correspond on, but not something we can talk about easily here, both because of the time available and because it's personal to you. But I am happy to pick up the email.
I believe that many others have been affected as well.
Okay. Can I suggest then that we, Gabby's given an undertaking to look at that. Neil, if you can write to Gabby again and copy me in, we'll make sure that we follow that up to the hilt on that. We have got some knowledge of that, so let's do that. And the undertaking has been made publicly by Gabby to look into that further. So let's get back onto that. I'm going to move on. I'm going to ask for two questions now. I've got Tony and then Mimi. Can I ask you to be brief, please? It's 2016. Please be brief because then we need to get your questions answered. So Tony first, and then Mimi. Then we'll direct it accordingly.
Thanks, Desmond. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, lovely. Good. Yeah. I liked Glenda's points. I always like to hear her speak, and I've been trying to get something going since Sajid Javid was Home Secretary. Now, the thing for me is, all I want to say is that things are moving very slowly from where I'm sat. And I've got a suggestion for Nigel. A consideration of having a few people from the Windrush that are actually directly involved as customers or victims, but to have them alongside the team to be like advisors, so that we can actually have a direct input into how they're assessing how we're feeling and what we're going through. Because from where I'm sat, there's like a brick wall effect. And I worked in local government and stuff, so I know how it operates. But what I'd like to see is a bit more speed. And for instance, when Amber Rudd was Home Secretary, she shifted 10 million overnight to aid with the hostile environment situation. And what I'm saying is that the hostile environment is still carrying on. When it comes to putting people on planes and sending back to the Caribbean, that happens really quickly. What I like to see is for the same proactiveness to not just compensate, but to, let's add the word reparation, which means repair. Because a lot of the people need repairing. And the last thing I'd like to say is that every single person who's been impacted by what's been happening has been damaged. So I think we need to broaden the way we're looking at this rather than limiting it. And for me, I think we need to be a bit more proactive and a bit more speedy and have some people in the organization that are actually actively involved by being affected by it directly. So that it's not just being an indirect response from people, they're not being directly affected. What do you think about that?
Yeah, thanks for that, Tony. Mimi, we'll go to them in a sec.
Yes, hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Thank you.
Yes.
I just have I would like to ask Nigel, have you actually taken up your post by yet to start dealing with the scheme, or is it something that you're going into?
Can I take the
Okay,
easy
thank
one
you.
Yeah,
first?
sorry. And then this is just the beginning of really my question. I just want to know whether Nigel has started yet.
Mimi, I've got to ask you a question quickly because we've got 5 minutes left and I've got 5 hands up.
Well, yeah, it
So
would depend on the answer. I was hoping to get it pretty quickly because something concerned me a bit earlier. I think it was Glenda Caesar was saying that somebody's documents came back with some words referred to the policyholder or something, and that question was put to Nigel, who said I don't know. And I'm thinking, well, if you are supposed to be heading this department that's dealing with this serious matter, you would not be coming to tell us that you don't know. If words are coming from your department, you should be able to answer the questions. And we were hoping that you are here today to restore some faith in what's been going on and giving us the impression that you will be helping to move this matter on smoother. But it's just took the rug from under me because I'm pretty shocked that you're here and you're saying you don't know when you're the person who's here to answer the questions that we have.
Oh, shall I take that?
there are 2 questions there. I need to put. Have you finished now, Mimi?
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm not finished yet. I've got much more to say, but I'd like to cut it short because I'd like to hear the answer before you leave.
We've got 5 minutes of the meeting, so thank you for that point. I'm not trying to shut anyone down, but please do respect the fact that we do finish at 8:30 and the Home Office staff do go then. Nigel, we know that there was the Windrush Stakeholders Advisory Group that was shut down. Tony's talking about putting something back in place where the voice, particularly of the victims, can be heard. He wants to know your view on that. And you've heard what Mimi's had to say. Can you address those 2 points, please?
So, Mimi, I think I said earlier on, this is kind of the end of week 2. So this is a complicated scheme. What you'll hear from me in these sessions is I will not write checks I cannot cash. So I won't make it up. I won't actually spin you a line. I'll answer the question as clearly as I can. Now, I hope that doesn't undermine your confidence, because what I'm here to do is build your confidence and to work with you. Now, I can't know everything. It's a big, complicated scheme. In the space of 2 weeks, I spent most of the weeks going through the end-to-end process. I've not yet met with the independent adjudicator, and the independent adjudicator question I think was quite specific that you asked, and I'll take it away as I said. Tony, in terms of the question on engagement, I'd say quickly, because we haven't got much time. Firstly, I don't recognise what you said about the wall. I've worked in the Windrush. I've been party to an hour-and-a-half conversations between my caseworkers and some really badly affected Windrush customers who have been walked through the process, who've been dealt with face to face. David Levy's done some fantastic work on the workshops that we've done, engaging with individuals. I am keen to make sure we get the voice of the customers through to the caseworkers. It is not practical, and I don't think it's appropriate to have a panel advising on casework. And I don't think, frankly, my initial view is that, as I say, what you categorize as a wall, I think there is more work to do on that reach out, but I don't recognize that categorization. I mean, it might have happened in some cases, but certainly in terms of maybe, I don't know, we're doing some work with Martin Levy in terms of to Liverpool. We could do some like open sessions. We could do this organization is actually part of the engagement about raising awareness. I guess we could have a caseworker or two come along to this and to hear from you. But I think other than that, I think I'm asking for some more direct. You were breaking up then. Sorry.
Because
yeah, can I just interject? Tony, we've picked up your point. There is an additional answer to that question. And I've just got to make it very, very brief because of the time, because we're booked until to extend it. To extend it because these meetings are kept on a strict time basis. But one of the things is that I will make to you is that the justice have actually asked for in the report that we're going to assist in implementing. They have asked for what you've asked for. So that's actually in the justice report as well. So it is there and it can't be ignored. So just to let you know that. I just need to move on to Roland. Sorry, the order was admin, Roland and Alexandra, please. And can the Home Office staff, do you mind if we just extend to 8:35? I do apologize. Can we do that?
That's fine.
Yep, 8:35. Okay, thank you. So Roland, admin, and Alexandra, please be as quick as you can so that I can get the questions and get your answers. So Roland first, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone again. I think one of the main reasons why a lot of victims are willing to apply to the scheme is that they're thinking the Home Office does not come with good intent, and is not coming from with good intention, goodwill, so to speak. Because if, as soon as it has been established that a victim is eligible, why not just pay the compensation, the preliminary payment, if the minimum compensation is going to be 10,000? Or if it's, I can't see any rationale for the payment not being paid forthwith, so to speak. That is if the Home Office is coming with goodwill and good intention, because it's not being seen as such at the moment, especially by those that are outside of the UK. They're saying, what's the point? We are seeing no reason that the Home Office is being genuine, because a simple thing like this, they cannot execute and demonstrate clearly that they're being genuine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mary, I won't be able to take your question, I'm afraid. We've got admin Alexandra. Julie, I appreciate you have had your hand up, but we are WNO members and we can get direct access. The priority has to be given to members of the public who don't get the opportunity to ask these people questions. Admin, your question, please. Okay, in the absence of that, Alexandra.
Yeah, hello, sorry. Just quickly wanted to echo Tony's point about the barrier. And I can't see how anyone can comment to say there's not a barrier if they've not been affected by this. So I don't appreciate, Nigel, unfortunately, I don't appreciate your comment saying you don't see the barrier, because you wouldn't, because you're not the victim in this scenario. But also following on from Neil's point about people that have been exiled to other countries, are they being reached out to, and how would they know about the Windrush scheme if they're in another country at this point?
Okay, thank you, Alexandra. Mary, I will let you in, and then Julia, it'll just be a minute, and then the Home Office can respond accordingly.
Yeah, hi everyone. It is not my intention to offend anyone, but when I speak, some people may get offended, because what's happening here is the same thing that's been happening to us from since 1807, when the British said that we've got our freedom. They never really allow us to enjoy our freedom up to now in 2022, and the money that they've got, I don't know, bailing out the whole earth and controlling the whole world, is our money. We have earned that money for them. We are the ones who's built Britain up, and I don't see why they find it hard to give a few people some coins, really. And people shouldn't need marks for any Windrush compensation. They should ask for reparations. They should be getting millions of pounds to share among themselves. So what with all the bullshitting, I'm fed up of it, all this going around in circles with a crooked prime minister who tells a lot of lies and all his stuff, just following like sheep. Thank you. Bye. Yeah,
Mary,
I'm fed up of the old bloody...
Mary,
yeah.
Mary, I haven't got problems with a lot of what you said, but when you're going to come down and use language like that, I will draw the line.
Yeah, sorry, love. Sorry, but it's people like you that cause the problem to prolong. Because y'all always pretending that everything that they do to us is all right. I'm sure you haven't hell in the job, but you're pretending like it's okay. Just speak up and speak out and change the system. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mary. One thing I will tell people is this. If I don't even swear about the Home Office, that's fine. But remember, you've got a minister on here. You've got ministers on here. And if we don't have to swear, please do not use that type of language, no matter how you feel, right? And I must ask you never to do that again on the meeting like this. I just will not tolerate it, because if the Home Office staff use that language to you, you wouldn't like it. So let's moderate the language. I don't mind people shouting, doing whatever, but please moderate your language in future.
Sorry, I'd like to comment. In fact, the Home Office staff are using much stronger language on us, but it's been done in a...
Julia, up to you.
Thank you, Desmond. I've got two quick questions.
Yeah, thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Desmond. Asteria is contracted out by the Home Office to do work on behalf of them. And I was at a situation with a client, and they took the application, processed the application, and the application was incorrect. The application form was the incorrect form. Who is governing Asteria by these mistakes? Because once a fee has been paid by the client, they have got no way of recouping those funds back. Second question, law services are charging for a premium service for up to £3,500. Can it be succinct in finding out exactly what fees are going to the Home Office and what the law firms are actually charging for? This again is taking advantage of vulnerable applicants, and it's just not on. I would appreciate if Gabby or Nigel could come back to me with a response that I can action that on. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to get the public in first, so I was never ignoring you. Okay, so thank you very much for that. Before I just ask the Home Office to comment on those, I see some congratulatory messages going into the chat. I'm just going to say this. Our meetings, we conduct ourselves, we have made a lot of progress as Windrush National Organisation. And I'm not going to apologise for standing up in light of abuse. As a black man, I would not want anyone abusing me, and I don't tolerate abuse. So at the end of the day, we treat each other how we expect to be treated. I am aware that there's a lot of hurt, but one thing I will not tolerate, right, is abuse from anyone. And it doesn't matter if it's from the public or if it's from the Home Office. I make that crystal clear, and I have zero tolerance towards that. And those of you who are sending congratulatory messages in the chat, I will tell you now, I control directly who comes into these meetings. And if I see one more congratulatory message, I will not have you come back into this meeting. I will not tolerate any form of abuse whatsoever. We have had people come on these meetings and use the N-word and swear at us. And I've ensured that those get reported to the police, and I've ensured that there is zero tolerance towards it. And I will not tolerate it. And I'm making that crystal clear tonight. And I trust I won't have to repeat myself any further. And some people are quite intelligent, and I know who you are, sending congratulatory messages. Shame on you. Nigel, Gabby, can you respond to anything at all which has been said? And I know Julia's mentioned the Hysteria Fund, and I think Roland was talking about the issue ultimately of trust as well.
Yes, of course, really quickly. So issues with our contracted organisations, Stop Hysteria or others, if there are issues with them providing the wrong service, then there are channels to do that. But if those are not proving to work for you, you can let me or Nigel know, and we will resolve them for you. There were a lot of issues raised there in terms of outreach to people abroad. Angela could probably tell you lots about what they're doing, but she hasn't got time to, but she can tell you that we are absolutely doing lots of that. And oh my goodness, there was another point I really wanted to pick up on and I've forgotten what it was. Nigel, can you remember? There was a lot brought out there.
Was it the £3,500?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. So if law firms charge people, none of that money comes to the Home Office. We do not want lawyers making money out of people's claims. We believe the claims are not requiring a lawyer, and we believe We Are Digital should be able to help. We've had some feedback today about We Are Digital not doing what they should do and not finding them useful. I really want to hear that feedback. Nigel's already said that. Please send us information on that. Our evidence suggests that people that use lawyers do not necessarily get much more in terms of compensation, and actually lawyers will pick off the cases that they think will get more money and then will charge 10, 20, 30% of what they win for people. We really don't want that happening. The scheme's supposed to be set up so all the money goes to the person who's being compensated. So if you've got any information about We Are Digital and where they're not meeting what we want them to do, we'll happily do that. We also would direct people to Vulnerable Persons Team because they are good at getting the information that we need from people. So please, we do want to work with you on those things. And Julia, if you want to email me, that's absolutely great, please do, and I'll answer your points. And thank you, Bishop Desmond, for what you said. We do understand that people are upset and angry, and we are here as representatives of the Home Office. And to that extent, we will understand and accept that. But what I can't accept is if people are abusive to staff. Anger, upset, frustration, that's fine. But when it's directed at people, that isn't fine. We would always deal with our staff if they behave badly, and I don't expect staff to have to cope with bad language or threats. So thank you.
Can I just say as well, just to clarify, in case I wasn't clear, that I was not saying that there is not work that we clearly need to do or that we want to do. And I made it very clear what I said about face behind the case and making sure that we know that there are people behind every one of these applications. My point in terms of Tony's point was that I have personally seen caseworkers invest a lot of emotion in engagement with customers. And we are here as the face of the Home Office. I'm a person the same as everybody else here. You know, I take a lot of this stuff personally. And I understand why you're upset. I understand there's a lot of anger. But I'd ask you to just open your mind that at the other end of this process, you know, we have got people, I'm a person, and, you know, we do believe that we can work with you to make a difference. And I'd like to move through this with as little getting in the way of that collaboration. Was I breaking up then, or could you hear me? I was getting a bit of feedback.
No. Yep, thank you for that, Nigel. It's now gone 8:35. I did say 5 minutes were overextending by. The time's now up for that. Just want to thank everybody. Sorry, Glenda, I can't get to you because the time has gone over. So my apologies there. Reverend Clive, thank you very much, everyone, from my perspective for your input at this evening's meeting. And one thing I do say, I do again, and I reiterate, I do appreciate people's frustrations. I've been helping people who've been caught up in this now for 8 years, and 8 years of pain, 8 years of grief, 8 years of suffering. And the thing is, at the end of the day, one thing I do not want is, and I will tell you this now, I don't want Home Office telling me they're not sending staff to our meetings because they're swearing at them. And that's the last thing I want. And, you know, as an organization and as a chair, I try and be as balanced as we possibly can. On myself and Reverend Clive, one of the things we pride ourselves upon, and the Home Office will tell you, we do ask the difficult questions. We do hold them to account. And we don't joke with them either. You know, we can't even sit down and have a cup of tea with them because the conversations are all on Zoom. But importantly, we're here to fight for you and build that bridge for you. And let's not burn it. That's the only point I'm making. Reverend Clive, so thank you very much. The date of our next meeting is the 17th of March. So Reverend Clive, over to you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Bishop Desmond, and thanks everyone for attending this first meeting for 2022. Really appreciate your time, and thanks everyone for staying on, and also for the Home Office for staying on as well. And you know, we have to continue to fight the good fight, and so we really appreciate your time here. And this is just an opportunity. It may be a small one, but it is an opportunity where you can express yourself about the injustice, about how you feel, in a way where we want to get change and results, and we want to maintain this opportunity for that to happen. We're going to end as we started with a word of prayer. So those of you who would like to join us as we close in prayer can do so at this time. Father, we just thank you for your mercy and your goodness towards us. We ask again, Lord Jesus, that you are a God of justice, a God of love. Lord, you know everything, and we ask again that you will continue to direct us in this work. We know that there are many who are suffering, not just because of Windrush, Lord, but in many, many ways. We think about the pandemic and how we've lost so many of our people as well, disproportionately. In so many ways, there's lots of suffering, Lord. And Father, we're just asking that you strengthen the hands of and the minds of those who want to work in this area. Indeed, Lord, we ask that you bring more people to this work, because together we are stronger. And we ask that you continue to be with us for the rest of this evening and watch over us all. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great evening and look after yourselves and stay safe until we see you again at our next meeting on the 17th of March. Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Right.